Hello, hello, hello. Today, a book review. Why not? We are talking about Dip My Brain in Joy, Life with Neil Innes, the official biography by Yvonne Innes. Yvonne Innes is the wife of, or the widow of Neil Innes. For those who don't know, Neil Innes, famous for the Bonzos and his own solo career, the Rutles, Innes Book of Records. If you're in Britain, you might know of a certain generation, you might know what that is. And this came out last week, and I read it in an afternoon, and I thought I'd talk about it. And I've got a signed copy as well. Well, it's not really signed; it's a book plate that's been stuck in. Bit of a cheat, really. Neil Innes died. Crikey, when was it? December 2019, I think it was. It was again a bit of a shock to everyone. Again, he was 75, gone too soon, and this book tells his story. For me, Neil Innes has been in my life for a very long time. As a boy, I found Innes Book of Records, which was a show he did in 79, 80, 81. And it was a peculiar little show. And again, at that time, when I was young, I was allowed to watch things like Monty Python, and I felt it was, and Ripping Yarns, I used to love that. And I felt it was like an extension of that. I didn't know it was an extension of that. It just felt like it shared the same DNA. Again, I wasn't aware. When you're young, you're not necessarily aware of all the connections to things. And I remember, watching it, tuning in. That's how I got exposed to songs like Urban Spaceman. And it was like something a little bit naughty to watch because it went out a bit late. And then Neil Innes turns up in the book tower, taken over from Tom Baker, and he was in a number of kids shows, Puddle Lane, Raggy Dolls. He did the music and voices for that. And then you trace backwards to the Bonzos. Oh no, the next time I came across him was, of course, with Monty Python. He appeared in Holy Grail. He appeared in Monty Python at the Hollywood Bowl. He was very much, was it the seventh Python? So it's like these things all kind of intersected. And then I discovered the Bonzos. Again, I'd known the Bonzos from, again, that was the Beatles and Magical Mystery Tour. And you saw them on various clip shows, and so it always seemed to be intersecting in my life. I've got a great fondness for Innes and Stanshall and the Bonzos and the various projects they've done. It's very hard to do comedy music. It's very hard to be funny and musical at the same time. So it's an interesting. They're interesting people. I think they are remarkable people to be able to do that and consistently do it and operate across different mediums and whatnot. Again, Stanshall was in Tubular Bells. That was one of his noted outbreaks. These people are just crisscrossing your life, and I used to love those connections. Oh, this person appeared on that album, and that person, that was great. So anyway, Neil Innes. Where can we go with that? So we talked about that. I did have an interaction with him on Twitter. Again, I think I've had one with Eric Idle and Terry Gilliam. There's all these people you tweet at or Facebook at, and they sometimes reply, and it's kind of amusing. With Innes, he unfortunately, like many people, some people suffer from these derangement syndromes. You have the Trump derangement syndrome, you have Brexit derangement syndrome, and that's what Innes was suffering with. He was living in France at the time. That's where he died. And he said, he made some comment about Brexit, and I pulled him up. I said, no, look, we're not all like that. Some of us believe that, the EU is, it's not a democratic thing. They have voter blocks, and I argued my case, and we had a little conversation, and even though we disagreed, we parted on good terms. It was an adult pleasant adult experience, and I thought this is the mark of a good person. You can have your differences and you can try and understand each other, And I said to him, I understand why you're pro EU. I get it, because I do get it. I'm not anti EU if it truly was democratic and whatnot. But I see the damage it can do. I see that there is the damage inside, which people tend to ignore. So that was my experience. And then when he died, it really upset me. And then I read this book, and that really upset me. So there you go. It is a biography of sorts, but it's told like in almost like a third person. You don't get that intimacy or immediacy that you get with a proper. And then I said, biography. This one, like I said, there's a person who wasn't at all the things. She was at some of the things, but she wasn't at all the things, and she didn't share all the memories. So it's slightly one step away. It echoes what Vivian Stanshall's widow did with her book, though her book was much more detailed and told a lot of her story. And even though again it's similar, they're talking about dead men effectively. I think her stories were a bit more. I don't know. I think it's a bit more presence in his. She was a bit more present in the events, if you know what I mean. Whereas with this, it's a little bit more skirting over certain things because I guess she wasn't there, or maybe Innes didn't share them. Again, Innes himself comes across as a bit of an isolated character who was dedicated to his art, a bit shut off, And the one theme in the book is that he didn't get the credit, that he was due. But I think he got the credit that he wanted, that he sought out, because he was, like he said, he was a very humble person. He has again, reading this book, he had a similar set of values to my own. And if you have a certain set of values, you will only get so far, because you're not cutthroat and you don't treat people badly. Again, to get on, you do have to be mercenary, and this is why I'm failed at business, because I don't have that mercenary attitude. And Innes is the same. He had the same attitude as me, is that when somebody does something bad or something bad happens, you just move on and you create the next thing. You persevere. And something will come good out of that. And I think there's a lot of good in that. It stops you going crazy. It stops you becoming embittered. It keeps you grounded. So that was heartening to read. And there's lots of, there are a lot of good stories in there. There's, talks of, hanging with, George Harrison, and, the birth of the Bonzos. But again, the Bonzo period is very skipped over. It's described more. Again, you get a sense of his frustration with dealing with these people. And again, even when the Bonzos got back together again, latterly in the later part of their lives, there was still that chaos where everyone kind of resented him being the leader, a bit like Paul McCartney and the Beatles, funny enough. But when he said, "Oh, I don't want to be the boss. You be the boss," nothing got done. And sometimes you need that kind of focus and driving force in a project to get it to move forward. Otherwise nothing evolves or comes out of the murk, as it were. So yeah, there are some great stories in there. Again, this is somebody who did many things and travelled, and she talks about their lives together. But I think it could have been a bigger book. I think it could be a bit more detailed. And without Innes's, kind of voice in it, you're kind of lacking some of the things. Though, again, some of the stories she told, you realise that Innes kind of used he's in this book of records in some of the little scenes that he pulled together. So that was curious. That was curious. But I did come away with it with a sense of there must have been more. There must have been more. But I don't think she's in the position to tell that story. Because you're not living inside that person's head. So yeah, I mean, it's it's 6 of 1, half dozen out. I'm being greedy. I want to know the ins and outs, right? I'm being greedy. I'm not No, I'm not slagging the book off. I think it's, she did the best job she could. But it was the beginning and ending of this. It's the bookends of the book that really got me. And again, it starts with his death and how it happened, but she doesn't tell you the details. She just says this happens, and then at the end, the last chapter, she talks about exactly what happened, and that is horrifying. And I believe it's, again, I don't think she's properly grieved properly, and that's how she's dealing with it. And I don't know if any of you have been present at your loved one's death, or been, again, many deaths happen out of sight, out of mind. I'm unfortunate to have seen all my people either dying or I've had to identify them. So, the three important people in my life, I've had to do that, and it's something that you carry with you. And again, the story she tells, I shouldn't have read it late of the night because I couldn't sleep. It made me very upset because it is that torturous grief, and the living don't grieve the dead, they grieve themselves because you're changed and you've lost something and you grieve that loss. And that's what you read here, and the circumstances are truly sad and awful, and it was sudden and unexpected, and that's what death can be. It can come out, though he was 75, it can get us at any time. So again, approach with caution if those kind of things upset you. It's upset me, and look at me. So yeah, it is a good book. It is a good book, but I just wanted more. Again, the real thing that wasn't glossed over is what happened with the Rutles and Eric Idle, and latterly with the Spamalot musical. Because again, Innes was one of those people who got stuffed. Whatever he seemed to do, he got stuffed. He always complained about not getting paid. I mean, there were TV series. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the kids' TV shows. He said, I never got paid for it, And this was the same with the Rutles. When he did the Rutles, ATV, who owned the rights, again, this is a well-known thing, came along and said, but again, Yvonne details the exasperation of dealing with those people, and this is why he turned away and went, So ATV, who owned the rights to the Beatles catalogue at that time, came along and said, the Rutles sounds a lot like the Beatles, doesn't it? And he went, yeah, that's the point. It's a parody. And they said, well, nice parody you've got there, and took it basically and put it as Lennon, McCartney and Innes, and I think he got something like 20% out of it. And of course that meant it was very difficult to do things, when somebody else owns 80% of your song. Again, I'm sure the laws would have changed now because parody is protected. It was obvious that these were parodies. And latterly with when the Beatles came back in '95 with their big documentary series, the Rutles, Innes was bringing out archaeology, and he apparently asked Innes asked Idle if he wanted to be a part of it. He said no, because he didn't play any musical instruments on it. He was purely the comedy guy. He did the comedy bits, and music was Innes's department. So Innes went off and made an album, and then weeks before it was due to be released, it was going to be a big fanfare. Again, looking up Shangri-La, there's a video and there's lots of famous people in it. Piggo was in it, singing along, and Idle said no. Comes along and says no, and says the Rutles name belongs to me, and puts the kibosh on it. And Virgin Records gets nervous and pulls all the funding of advertising it, and the album dies on the vine. I bought a copy on the day of its release, so it couldn't have been that bad. I knew it was coming out. So that was an interesting story. But again, him and Idle were good friends. They'd done Rutland Weekend Television together. Of course, they'd worked with Python and the Rutles, and he could never understand how you can do that to friends. And it's because it's money. Idle likes money. That's why he did Spamalot. And that's why he cut people out there and ended up in the court case, which is explained in this book, and then they alter the songs in the show, and then Innes stops getting a royalty check from that. Oh, we don't not using your songs. We're using a different version of the song, so we don't have to pay you. That's the interesting part, you know, how famous people in the music industry can screw you over. But yeah, I've never been affected by a book so much. The final chapter and detailing, you know, what happens when somebody dies and how it affects you and what you've got to do, especially living in France. Then it's got me thinking. It gets you thinking about your own mortality and all the crap you carry with you, you know. So, yeah, a great book. I just wanted more because I'm greedy. All right, I'm greedy. It's a book a wife would write about their husband, who was a famous musician a long time ago. That's it. That's it. And it's an honour. It is an honour to him, and you know. But like I said, the whole, you know, we see death as, you know, many people see death as something that, like I said, happens off screen, you know, off camera, behind the curtain, in bed, you know, door closed. And it's not always like that. And sometimes it is naked and raw and in your face. And I didn't know anything about what had happened. Again, I wasn't looking. I just heard that he passed, and it was sudden, unexpected, and I grieved in my way then. But then you read the details of it, because again, I think that was kept quiet at the time, and you go, bloody hell, yeah. So yeah, it certainly affected me. It affected me deeply. But if you're into the Bonzo, if you are, you know, an anal retentive cultist like myself, and you want to know, then yeah, you know, it's a book. Dip my brain in joy, which wasn't a line that Innes wrote. And to find out who came up with that line, you'll have to read the book. Oh, see what I did there? I'll put an affiliate link to Amazon or something so you can get a copy. But again, this goes with my. I've got 2 Stanshall biographies, and now I've got an Innes one. So that's nice. That's nice. I do like my books. Anyway, thank you for watching. Sorry for burbling on too long, but like I said, I finished reading that last week, and I've been thinking about it ever since, trying to think of a best way of talking about it, because it is you know, like I said, it was deeply affected me. Yeah, so that's it. I recommend it again if you have no interest. There's no point in buying it, but if you have even a modicum of interest, do buy it, because it does talk about, you know, the things that happened. I wish there were a bit more about the Bonzos at the beginning, just a little bit more. Yeah, but again, she wasn't privy to that, because she was looking after babies and that. But as babies grow up and go out into the world, she's more involved. She get a bit more detail as it goes on. You know, that's what happens when you're, you know, behind the scenes, as it were. So yeah, that's the structure of it. Oh yeah, and there's another criticism. It does jump back and forth a bit. I think the editor could have, whoever edited this, could have kept it strictly chronological, because it's going chronological at a point, and it goes, oh, in 2005 we did this, and it jumps back to 1990, and then I'm like, what? You know, it could have just been shifted around. But that's me being an editor. That's an editorial point. I'm a whinger, and that's what I do. Anyway, thank you for watching. That was the book. Dip my brain in joy. Film A Life with Neil Innes by Yvonne Innes, his wife, a widow. Sorry, official biography. Give it a look. There'll be an affiliate link in the description. Thank you for watching. There's only one more thing I've said. It's ta-ta.